It's really interesting to take a look back over the last 30 years that I've been in sales, formally in sales. Obviously, there was another couple of years that I was selling when I was at high school and at college. It was a slightly more informal basis, but it's interesting to look back and see what things have changed in the sales business and what things have remained the same. So when I started out selling life insurance, I remember that there were no computers. So wherever you went, you had to carry a huge file of rates to work out how much it was going to cost people to get their life coverage or their coverage for their homes and their cars. You'd have to have calculators with you wherever you went. There had to be multiple checks of those numbers before anything was submitted, and there was always a huge big flip folder with a whole bunch of information in it, and either it was advertising glossies, which by the way haven't changed much. Well, I suppose they've changed in the look and the feel, but they're still sales glossies, which is marketing, by the way. It's not sales, but there were glossies, there were advertising brochures and collateral, and then there were a whole series of documents that needed to be filled in by the client in as they pursued that coverage, whatever it might be. These days, so much of that has disappeared with the advent of computers and laptops and smart technology. People can sign stuff online. The documentation that we used to carry with us is now available online. People don't even need to sign these days. They can do everything via e-commerce. With laptops and what have you now, presentations are being done on the computer. You're not standing with a flip chart and going through a series of pictures. I'm really showing you how old I am, but things have really changed. The more tech savvy we've got, the more sexy our presentations have become. Media has changed totally as well. I mean, 20 years ago, I'm not convinced that even 20 years ago people would be doing degrees or training in social media. Now people are having to be social media experts, and there are people who study this and provide tremendous, and it's all good stuff. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying it's very, very new. I don't think there's ever been more sales magicians and sales gurus and sales trainers, sales courses that are available online. I think that probably these sales gurus and these public speakers and whatever are probably the few people that are making more money hour per hour than salespeople, and yet they're all selling something. So we know that, but these public speakers who would suggest that they're more in public speaking are the only people that are making more money than actual salespeople. But all of that said, there are a number of things that have stayed exactly the same. They haven't changed in the last 30 years. And as I speak to people, I realize that they actually haven't changed in the last 200 years, or however long they were keeping stats on sales. Number one, everybody is looking for a way to capture a regular supply of hot leads. It's one of the first two questions I get asked in any consult or any public speaking engagement or any Q&A that I end up doing. One of the first two questions is, where can we get a ready supply of red hot leads that are just going to make prospecting easy? I mean, have you heard of that? Prospecting easy. It doesn't happen. The second question that I get asked, and it's one of these two in this order: what is the perfect pitch? That thing that I can sell anything to anybody, anytime. A couple of other things that haven't changed is that top salespeople are still working harder than average salespeople. 30 years ago, before the explosion of technology, top salespeople were working harder than average salespeople. And now, 30 years later, with all the technology and with all the bells and whistles, top salespeople still work harder than average salespeople. There's a clue in there, folks. Forbes magazine has suggested that, let's call him Joe Average salesperson, still spends 50 to 70% of their time not selling. In other words, coming up with a bunch of excuses why they should not be doing money-making activities like prospecting and reaching out and finding leads. Joe Average is shuffling papers and waiting for his phone to ring. And that was true 30 years ago. It's still true now. Forbes magazine went on to suggest that 60% of people in the sales industry ever achieve quota. That means that there are 40% of people never hit quota, but 60% of people only ever hit quota. So this is not including that percentage of people that go above quota. A very, very interesting statistic. With everything that is developed around us, here's the one thing that stays the same. Sales is still a very hard career. You want to get to the top in this business, folks, use the technology, use the funnels and use the automated emails and use the sexy technology and the computers, use it. But understand it's never going to make your job easy. Sales is a hard job, and I feel that I'd be insulting you by not telling you that. If you're going into sales, or if you've found yourself in sales, understand you're in a very, very difficult industry if you're wanting to get to the top. And so my questions to you, however you're finding it right now, difficult, easy, are you hitting quota? Are you exceeding quota? Are you or your company following a deliberate, measurable sales formula or sales methodology that is actually working for you? And the tester, if it's working for you, is, are you hitting quota? If you're following a methodology that's got you falling short of quota, that's silly. Stop it. find a new one. Sorry, I don't know that there's a better way of saying that. Are your sales numbers predictable? And folks, there's only two ways that your sales numbers can be predictable. Either you're doing nothing and you're hoping that the sales fairy is going to sprinkle some sales dust on you and you're going to suddenly get some lucky deals. But generally, you'll be able to predict that you're not going to earn much. Or you're following a sales methodology that has got you consistently producing more than target. This is a great time for me to invite you to go and check out 4pillarsofsales.com, where you can have a look at my 4 Pillars of Sales program that'll teach you about the philosophy of sales, it'll teach you about agenda, it'll teach you about the abilities that you can develop, and anyone can develop them, by the way, and the activities that are needed in order to build a successful professional sales practice. Why don't you like this video? Why don't you subscribe? And why don't you just go for it? Because I want to tell you, there is hope out there. If you're battling in sales, it's a beautiful thing, because you just need to take 1 or 2 activities on board and you can turn your struggle into a massive celebration. Go for it.